Thanks.
Alrighty then. So, shit, what was the name of the little motel? The Econo Lodge, right.
Yep.
So you guys, right, your hours are odd. But you engage in one rest period. And,
Oh, nice.
in the late afternoon when you all awaken, uh, um, oh god. Uh, Alex, it's been a long trip.
I love Scrooge.
I've been traveling with him.
Yes.
Hmm.
You've been instructed not to interact with him, and he hasn't tried to strike up any conversation with you.
Hmm.
It's been a quiet few days. You've had a lot of time to read.
I am comfortable not interacting with others.
As is this guy. But when you arrive at the Econo Lodge, he finally gives you the time of day. You've been traveling for days in this cab. And he turns around and flashes that grin and says, "This is the place. Good luck, Alex." Make a resolve and composure roll.
Sir, I'm a little bit rusty on the New World of Darkness. 8 and above, right, is a success?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a dice roller. Better
Is it
yet,
pinned?
yes.
Resolve and composure?
Yes. Cap, apple of my eye. Pinned it
Yes.
last session.
Yep, but I'll put it right there as well.
2 successes?
These,
Ones don't take away, right?
yes, ones don't count against. This game loves you.
This is New World of Darkness.
This is
Okay.
friendly.
It doesn't love you,
Yeah,
but it's
I'm
not
still
outright murderous.
first edition vampire.
Hello, welcome to suffering. There we go. Just what I was looking for. You feel instinctive revulsion, but you're able to ignore the intruding thought.
I curtly nod my head.
He does not get out of the
Oh.
cab to help you with your bags.
Just out of curiosity, does Indomitable help with that?
What does Indomitable do?
I believe it's 2 dice for anything that's like a supernatural dominable.
I'm about to say, what book is that from?
+2 to a contesting dice pool, a resistance trait applied against supernatural mental influence, and it's from COFD 45.
Even so,
Which are
it's a worthwhile 2-dot merit, and yes, it would apply.
okay. That's good to know for the future.
Yeah, he does not come out of the cab to help you with your bags.
That's mainly just one large duffel.
And as soon as you have collected your things, he puts away.
What was that? I saw him during the day, correct? So,
Yes.
not a vampire?
He is not undead. putt. He didn't take any breaks, even if you slept, and even if you stopped to eat. All he did was chomp on that fucking cigar. The spirits here are a confluence. Welcome to the crossroads.
I will stare at the invisible and intangible for a moment.
A lot of things blowing in from a lot of different directions. It's not a ley line. They're not attracted to this place. This is just where a lot of things go and leave.
Distracted for a moment, and then I go to the... did I ever get a room number for where I'm supposed to be?
No, there isn't a room number, but there is a lobby.
All right, I'll head into the lobby and go up to the desk. I'll put on my best people face.
Right, yes.
Attempt to smile.
This is what the Econo Lodge looks like.
The inside is worse.
Welcome, yeah. Welcome to your room.
I've stated it worse.
Frightening.
The chain smoking lady from behind the desk and says, "Oh yeah, one more, huh? I suppose you'll be staying with us for an indefinite amount of time?"
That is what I understand.
Good. You take room 8. Yeah, I think room 8 will be good for you.
We're so kind.
Thank you. You were very kind.
You're the best.
Alex, as you bring your things to room 8, you end up crossing by a little kitchenette that has these 3 fun fellows in it. Each of you, describe yourselves to Alexandra.
Look like a private investigator. Trench coat, nice fedora hat. That is all. Oh, I have red hair.
Male,
nice.
female, tall, short.
I'm playing a guy.
Okay.
I'm about 6'2". There we go.
I got your back, Holmes.
Thank you.
Do. Easter, if you would.
Easter is...
Hi, Paige. Sorry.
I'm opening things I've used. So, Easter is a lovely blonde lady. Long, curly blonde hair. She's also wearing a hat. But her hat is more... I guess it is also technically a fedora. But it's more of a fashion fedora.
Is she by any chance teeny tiny?
She is not teeny tiny. She is of average height and build.
Oh, okay. Just curious.
Isn't that Esther from American Gods?
It is.
Mm. It is
Good
Kristen
eye.
Chenoweth, who is teeny tiny.
She is teeny tiny. She's just she was just my face claim. For just her face.
Yusuf is a Middle Eastern man, about 5'10", very lean, well-groomed with wavy black hair, eyes hidden by polarized aviators, and dressed practically in business casual attire.
Dun, 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 dun.
Good-looking fella.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know me.
Yeah.
He sure is.
Well, Alexandra is, while that picture is fairly accurate, her hair is currently black. It is pulled up tight in the ponytail. She's above average height for a woman, and fairly slim, but has the appearance of like broad shoulders and some level of athleticism. While her features are regular and attractive, there's something about her that seems a little bit uh, off. I mean, in a kind of aspy sort of way.
Hmm.
Are you the? Huh. You must be the ones I've been sent to meet. Sorry for the lateness.
Oh, it's no trouble.
I am Alexandra. You may call me Alex.
Hello, Alex. I'm Easter. She
Yusuf.
sticks out a hand to shake.
She's a little hesitant, but she shakes your hand.
Excellent. What is Alex's grip like?
It's firm is the best way to describe it. She's not doesn't seem to be exerting any pressure. But it feels like she's her hands are calloused. They are not they're not soft by any means. There are some scars on them. So she seems like she's being careful.
Excellent. Easter's handshake, perfectly average, firm and polite.
I take it you're one of the raiders then.
Yes. I was
Yusuf.
sent by.
Nice to meet you.
It is
Good
also
to
a
meet
pleasure.
you.
And you are, sir?
Oh, I'm Holmes. Nice to meet you. I reach out my hand.
She again slightly awkwardly takes it.
Oh,
I suppose we have time to get you up to speed. How much do you know about the incident?
I have been given little information other than I am to meet with you and provide you with whatever support is necessary.
Well, that's good. We'll need it.
We've been to the site and descended as far as we could. Yusuf is going to take a look around. We are alone in the lobby.
Yes. As a matter of fact, you four seem to be the only customers here.
Still, he lowers his voice as he describes the wreckage, the deep crater in the earth, scene of utter carnage that awaited in a lab setting below. And there was all of this green, I don't want to call it moss, it was many different types of plants that seemed to be growing out of the center of one of these broken test tubes, but large enough to keep a person in, or larger. It was
Where was this place again?
it was a wrecked functional lab building downtown Chicago, and like all the other buildings around it. Wasn't it kind of in like a very falling apart sort of neighborhood, like
Yeah,
abandoned industrial?
Yeah, it was sort of like an old abandoned industrial park. Both urban and isolated.
Yeah. Both the news and the business are reporting no casualties. And there were very few eyewitnesses. We've made contact with one, Holmes. The police officer on leave, yes?
yeah, so, something. O'Hanrahan?
O'Hanrahan.
O'Hanrahan. Yeah, it was quite informative about all the weirdness that came running out of that lab.
All manner of strange creatures after the human occupants had evacuated. And didn't he mention 4 individuals that fled the scene last? Got into a cab and disappeared?
I think they came up before everything else came out.
Easter, you have eidetic memory.
I do.
He said that they came out afterwards. They were some of the last to leave. There may have been some stragglers, but it was like evacuation, monsters, these 4 things, maybe a couple more monsters, green glowing light that reaches the clouds, and then O'Hanrahan passed out, presumably.
Important details.
So events such as this are unusual here.
Presumably. It certainly was strange enough to get all of our organizations looking here at once. Does this sort of thing happen often, Easter?
Does this sort of thing happen often?
No, you
No.
normally track down lost spouses or
Right.
maybe supernatural creatures on the border of society who would make fantastic foxes for your hounds.
This is very atypical. I deal more with the, my husband ran off to the Fae, but really he ran off with a babysitter.
I see.
You have my sympathies.
Thank you.
She smiles. It's a little forced.
Doing her best.
So you arrived at the perfect moment. We were all discussing our next move.
I think that our first next move should be you all introducing yourself to the prince. That's the polite thing to do next.
Sadly, my thought immediately goes towards buying a Twilight T-shirt with "I love sparkles" written on it. Whenever I think of meeting the prince.
Speaking of,
So you have investigated the scene of this event?
Yes, we've already gathered samples and sent them off to our respective organizations. I'm sure that we can return, but Easter makes an excellent point. We
The
shouldn't be
prince,
rude.
the vampire prince?
Yes.
That will be interesting.
oh my god,
What can you tell us
Here,
about him?
I've met the prince.
You have indeed met the Mad Prince.
So what do I know about him?
Make a wits and science roll.
Beautiful. I suppose it would help to open up my goddamn character sheet.
Perhaps
Ooh, I
you should
love
consider
this,
that.
Reynold.
Yeah.
Is this the prince?
Yes, that is he.
Excellent.
You've also been to his court, which means you will know things that other people do not. It's always nice to have a native.
Mm-mm.
Right, yes, you're making a roll.
I am. And remind me what the roll was, because
Wits
the
and science.
it fell out of my head. Wits and science.
Thankfully, you have an eidetic memory, so I'm obligated to tell you.
Excellent.
Oh, there's my character sheet.
I didn't know Easter had any points in science.
She doesn't, but she has 4 points of wit, so I got to roll 1 die,
Oh,
and I did not
boy!
get any successes.
Oh, shit! The Mad Prince is a weird one. Let me look up a name for him. I don't want to just keep calling him the Mad Prince, although he does often demand that people refer to him by title.
Excuse me.
Crazy? Adam. Adam Lloyd. He's manic would probably be the word you use to describe him. He often acts like he's done an 8-ball of coke all the fucking time. He scarcely has a time to end one thought before he begins another. Quite literally, you have occasionally seen sentences of his crash into each other. At which point his mouth just starts gibbering and the words can't quite come out. He is attended to by a merry band at his Elysium. He is accompanied by his sheriff, hound, sheriff, hound. Oh, I think there's a special title for this person. I think there's a special title for head sorcerer. If not, his vizier and a cook, which is very uncommon for... Hey, there we go. Whip? No. This, the Priscus, the Primogen, the Herald. Right, he is accompanied by his seneschal, sheriff, and hound at all times. Whereas many of the other individuals who are involved in court intrigue are away and about. But yes, you've seen the cook. Unfortunately, he was hesitant to allow you to partake in any of the dishes.
Understandable.
Make an intelligence and politics.
You got it.
Politics, the one thing I don't have.
You should fix that.
That's the thing that kills you.
Yeah, I'm bad about that.
1 success.
One success. The cook is not what he seems. That much you know.
Oh.
He listens too much and speaks too little. And why should he be allowed? Why should he be permitted to roam freely? Shouldn't his place be in the kitchen?
It feels like a cover.
Exactly. That being said, he does prepare meals for the prince. He apparently has discovered a way to infuse blood into mortal foodstuffs. So the appearance, so appearances can be maintained even among the dead.
Blood brownies.
Fucking blood brownies, bro. That being said,
So-
he's a decent enough fellow. But he has boned up on his Machiavelli. You have to understand. He understands the judicial use of both carrot and stick. So he is a worthy prince. He's neither a pushover nor is he a villain. He doesn't seem... Blissfully, he doesn't seem to have too much ambition. easy for a lot of people to think that he got to where he is by chance, but the fact his position is testament to the fact that good fortune had little to do with it.
Okay. Easter describes him as high energy, thankfully lacks ambition, and let's see, what would be the third thing she would talk about? And he has ears in places you would not expect.
All good to know.
As
Does
if
he exercise control over the criminal activity of this city?
that much you don't know.
I'm not sure.
As if on cue, a Russian soldier appears.
Seems anachronistic.
His uniform is patched together, and he's not wearing a helmet. He comes in, reaches into a mailbag, produces a letter, puts it on the table, and leaves.
All right.
All right, so
That
that was unusual.
Alex, make an intelligence and politics roll.
You're asking me
Yes.
to make an intelligence and politics roll.
You're the only one who would know him.
Okay, what's the minimum amount of dice you can roll?
So if your dice pool is reduced to 0 or less, you roll a chance die. On a 10, you succeed. On a 1, you critically fail. Anything else is also a failure.
I actually did get a 10. I was not expecting that.
There's a 1 in 10 chance of success. That being said, after he passes the letter off and he's already gone out the door, you're like, oh shit, I know that guy.
All right, how do I know him?
He's a raider. You don't know his name. You just know about a Russian mailman. You know a Russian mailman that Emir employs very often.
So is the letter handed to me, or is it?
No, he just drops it on the table. And
I'll go over and go to the envelope. Wow.
Upon it is writ in fancy letters on the envelope, sealed with wax. You are cordially invited. Who opens it?
I pick it up and I smell it.
You smell it. It smells like roses. Fair enough.
Nice. Would anyone object as I pull the letter? And it's from a trustworthy courier.
No.
Oh, please do, Yusuf says and takes a few steps back.
Alex breaks the seal.
It explodes in a torrent of blood. Everybody takes 18 points of aggravated damage. No. You open up the letter. You open up the envelope, and there is a letter inside. Beautiful red script painted on faded vellum.
Sheep.
You are cordially invited to a local soiree hosted by yours truly. There is a listed address.
Very nice of him.
It just says yours truly.
Yes.
Yeah. I look at Easter. I hand it to her. Is this meaningful?
That feels like something the prince would put out, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You're pretty sure he has like a box of those somewhere, and he just, waves his hand and says, "Oh, send them an invitation." And like they're all pre-prepared. He wrote up 100 of them when he was high and couldn't go to sleep.
That absolutely seems like something he did. And after seeing Alex do it, I also take a sniff of the letter.
Make an intelligence and wilderness Ken roll.
May I, instead of that, roll intelligence and craft because my day job is perfumer.
You maced have.
Thank you.
Ooh, fancy.
All that for no successes.
Woo! It smells flowery.
Floral. But clashing. Not a good combination. Now let's see when this soiree is.
The soiree goes all night. The prince holds court until the dawn.
Understandable.
Oh, I did. I did change vampire rules somewhat. They can,
Oh yeah.
yes, they can survive in sunlight, but if they catch the coming of the dawn, that will kill them.
Gotcha.
So being left out for the dawn is definitely still an expression that means something. And I mean, because sunlight nullifies their abilities, there's often no way for them to escape.
Has anyone else seen True Blood?
Yes.
Okay.
I gave up after like season 5.
Season
It
5
is
is always when HBO shows get bad.
Pretty much.
It's funny when that happens.
I feel I should just finish up the last season just because I'm there, but at the same time, it's like,
It was satisfying enough.
You gotta finish it, Derek. You like a vampire. You gotta put it in the ground.
fair enough. I shall finish.
When is this soiree? Tonight?
All night.
The whole night? So are we already fashionably late?
This seems like a frivolous use of our time.
I feel like it would be not in our best interest to refuse.
And kill two birds with one stone if we go in and introduce ourselves. Make nice with everyone. I feel like we may need a few more allies than previously necessary.
I'm uncomfortable socializing with vampires, and I would like to make that known.
Thank you. Your transparency is appreciated.
I've not encountered many, but I've heard not wonderful things. Some of them are members of Kali's, though, so those seem fine. What was that?
Don't worry about it.
So I'm guessing I should probably leave the hot rounds in the car, huh?
That would be more diplomatically smooth.
One question about the scene of the incident.
Yes.
Did you make any effort to track any of the trails?
There wasn't much outside. Some of the building debris was left. There were no blood trails. There were no tracks. Nothing obvious, at least.
I think some time had passed between when it had happened and when we arrived.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not much for trails.
Yes, in 2 weeks, rain would have fallen, would have muddied it.
But what we did get were some readings on some of the supernatural material in the lower level.
Azothic in nature.
I do toss that word out there. I don't make any effort to explain what Azoth is.
I'm somewhat new to this larger realm. Some of what you say is not familiar.
Just know that it's powerful magic, and if I need to explain it more, I will.
Well, I suppose we must do what we must do now.
Is
Now,
the prince-
what
Go ahead.
what would Easter think is the dress code for this sort of thing?
You may wear whatever you wish.
Okay.
If you wish to dress to impress, the prince may be impressed. If you intend not to put on airs, that may do the trick as well, showing that you don't. A challenge to his authority can be seen as intriguing. Django Unchained style. I'm not antagonizing Candy. I'm intriguing him.
Yeah.
Good fucking movie.
So fucking good.
I suppose I should shower and change my clothing. It's been some time in that vehicle.
Certainly. We have time.
You still can't get the smell of his Cubans out of your nose. That being said, the facilities leave something to be desired.
Ugh.
Whoa.
Again, been worse.
True.
What was that pitch? You cut out.
Outfit time.
Oh my god.
Oh boy. It's time for fashion. We playing Fashion Souls now. Whose vehicle are y'all gonna pile into?
Used to, we should take yours. It's familiar to them.
Will do.
Alex will swap out her fairly dirty blue jeans for a set of relatively clean black blue jeans and a black t-shirt and a black leather jacket.
You know what? I don't want to wear anything fancy. I'll just wear jeans and a t-shirt. Sorry, there's a Tales from Mere Existence video that's just called Jeans and a T-shirt, and it's 5 minutes of coming up with excuses why they should wear a jeans and a t-shirt. Is there any more preparation?
She probably has something that would be appropriate for going clubbing, if it's necessary to sort of blend in somewhere. But that would probably not be. It would be fairly tacky.
True. Holmes, is there anything you'd like to do to prepare, or do you just get in the car?
Probably prepared as is, always and forever.
Marvelous. So
I just
y'all.
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
It was a bad
Y'all.
joke.
Easter, what sort of vehicle do you have? I don't remember.
Uh-huh. I don't even remember what I picked. I think it was like a Kia.
Sweet. Enjoy your 4-door hoopty. So y'all drive to the address mentioned.
Not to be confused by apparently Kai Green, who is a bodybuilder and absolutely enormous.
Oh my. Welcome to in an isolated neighborhood in the somewhere in a rather well-to-do part of town. There is a mansion. And it is pictured Holmes's closet.
Pretty much. Ah, Doug, nice.
Vintage. As you all exit the vehicle, you can feel the eyes looking in on you from the windows.
Are there people in the windows, or is that just a feeling?
It's just a feeling. It's a lot like love. It's all a feeling, and it fills this room from the floor to the ceiling. And I don't want to talk to a scientist. Y'all motherfuckers lying and getting me pissed.
Understood.
Fuck.
That makes one of you.
Oh.
Well, this certainly looks like the right house.
Yes, it does.
What is that word? Ah, cliche. Yes.
That it is. That it is.
Do they take our weapons at the door, or should we not bring them in at all?
I think it's polite not to bring them in.
A gesture, nice.
Don't worry. Just wait.
Alex left most of her stuff at the in the hotel, but she does have her Bowie knife in her back.
Yusuf is going to leave his
She'll check it.
shoulder holster in your glove compartment.
As y'all approach the door, a dismal jester opens it. Everybody give me an intelligence and occult roll.
Gladly.
You got it.
Where's that occult? I know it has it. There it is.
That's a no successes.
Woo!
So I critically failed on my chance die.
Hey!
One success out of all of that? Nonsense.
3.
Easter, fucking vampires all look the same to you. They all look pale and dead.
And boy howdy is this guy pale and dead.
They're kind of the Family Dollar of, magic creatures.
Holmes, there's a strange juxtaposition between this man's affect and his outfit. You're not quite sure what. Yusef.
Yeah.
This man is clearly a Ventru. And he is the court jester.
That's fucked up.
I'm going to try my hardest to not laugh by coughing instead.
Make a manipulation and subterfuge. I'm sorry, composure and subterfuge.
It's the same amount of dice either way.
Hey.
Holy fuck. Okay, 6.
Oh my god.
Nice.
All right.
Jesus.
He looks at you expectantly, and you don't even chuckle. And he smiles. May I take your coats?
Thank you. Yes.
Certainly.
Here you go.
You all pile your coats into his arms, and he ushers you all inside before putting the coats away in a very large, very well-stocked coat room, and says, by all means, make yourselves at home. The master is expecting you.
Maybe walk into the entryway.
Oh,
Now this looks like an actual mansion.
it's not that big. It's more like a very large, well-to-do house, but it technically is a mansion.
Are there any other guests?
None that are apparent in the
In the foyer.
yes. Jesus Christ.
You notice that when Alex is in unfamiliar territory, she has a tendency to kind of stalk.
Hmm.
Hyper vigilant,
Just like really tense.
Oh God. An old woman enters the foyer. She doesn't literally have a knife in her teeth, but it's very much her temperament.
Jeez.
And she says, "Well, come on in. We don't bite."
Easter laughs politely and comes on in.
Well, the low-hanging fruit is often the sweetest.
Couldn't agree more.
She leads you into a drawing room, which has a small dais and a fucking throne on it.
Dope.
It's only like 3 steps up to the dais, and the throne is just a large, impressive, but comfortable chair. It's not like the fucking Iron Throne, like 400 swords melted together. No, it's just a big comfy chair.
Extra, but not that extra.
Exactly.
Is there any sign of a soiree yet?
Yes, there is.
Oh.
There are a few vampires with wine glasses who politely applaud as you all enter, but for the most part, they're just here to socialize and catch up on the latest gossip. True to Easter's saying, there is a maitre d' of sorts, an absolutely wretched-looking Nosferatu wearing a chef's outfit, and he is bringing hors d'oeuvres here and there. They are all coated a light shade of crimson. Right, the Mad Prince is sitting resplendent on his throne, just sort of taking in all the atmosphere. At his left side, there is a chain mooring to the floor, attached around the collar of a great wolf. And at his other side, there is...
Alex becomes very interested at the chained great wolf.
And at his other side, there is a peculiar gentleman. He is wearing a tabard with a cross on it. He appears to have one breast, and he has a sword that he is spinning Commodus style.
You say he has one breast,
Yes.
so his chest is bare, and he has one feminine breast.
Yes.
Is the other side scarred like an Amazon?
No. But the reference... if you were playing charades, he would give you a tap on the nose. He only has a left breast. The right one has been quote unquote removed or is simply absent. I'm trying to think of anyone else who would be here. Right. The older woman walks up and says, "Adam, your guests were moldering in the foyer. You really must get better help." And the jester comes in through the door and sighs.
Oh,
Welcome, welcome, one and all. How are you all doing this evening?
So fine,
beautifully so
thank you.
far.
Good time.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Alex is staring fixedly at the wolf.
Now, I understand you have some business in this city of mine.
Yes.
That's correct. To do with the remember the name of the company, the lab building that was demolished.
Oh, North Central Positronics. They're in vogue right now. The old woman spits. Well then, well then. Some of my people were taken there, and not all of them came back to me. So, please understand when I tell you I have a dog in the fight. I think I'd like to help. Most certainly. But you have to understand, they didn't just take my people, they also took a fair bit of Sabbat shovelheads and such. And unfortunately, my people have been softened, fattened, and decadent by city living, and these rough and tumble gentlemen were more likely to survive their encounters there. So,
That makes sense.
Sabbat survivors.
hmm?
So we might find more Sabbat survivors that know something about the event.
That's a distinct possibility. Perhaps you can kill two birds with one stone. If I find an opportunity, maybe you can do me a favor, and maybe you can find some delightful little prisoners for yourself. That being said, it's dreadfully difficult to interrogate the Sabbat. Either they don't know or they won't tell. So, if I run into any situations where I think you might be able to do some work for me, then I'll send you a little letter from our courier friend.
Seems only fair.
Yes.
But please, by all means, avail yourself. Get to know the people you'll be serving alongside. Make no mistake, I am a very accommodating man. I understand the nature of what goes on here. We're all just trying to do what's right.
I think I'm gonna like this guy.
Right? He's very likable.
Closing statement kind of chills Yusuf to the bone.
You all may mingle freely and speak to whoever you wish.
Let's see. Took notes.
I walk over to the wolf.
He doesn't growl when you approach. The prince pipes up and says, "Oh, that's curious. He usually eats visitors."
And I'll just say very quietly to the wolf, "You want to be here?"
It whimpers a bit and nods its head.
She blinks her eyes rapidly, nods her head back, looks over at the prince appraising, turns and goes and rejoins the others.
I can tell you his tale if you want to hear it.
I stop, turn around, look at him. I would like to know.
Good. I appreciate one of your kind who is so curious. He was captured in a failed raid on the Sabbat. I commend your countrymen. But unfortunately, brute strength is no match for sinister tactics. At least it wasn't that day. They captured him and they broke him. I broke him free. I would have sent him back to your people, but they would have killed him. They have no need for a broken soldier.
I do not know my people.
It's probably for the best.
If that is the truth, then you have my gratitude.
I'm glad you understand. Your people don't.
Broken people need a place as well.
Like with that short but somber tale, like it's evidently one that he tells often, and everyone's still a little sort of like freaked out by it. And he starts clapping, and he just says, "Smiles, laughs, merriment now!" And everyone goes back to socializing as if that didn't happen. And the jester does a very, very sad cartwheel. Just like, oh fuck, time for some mandatory fun. Woo!
She looks over at the wolf and she says, "Farewell then. May we meet again." And she turns, goes back.
Would any of the other of you like to mingle with any of the guests, get to know the kindred of Chicago a bit better?
Easterwood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easter, you've spoken with a few of them, but it's very distant in your memory. You maybe met them once or twice. Like, the faces are familiar, but the stories are so distant.
That makes sense.
There's probably a few well wishes, greetings, chats about the weather, sports maybe. So, Easter, who would you like to speak with?
What do the guests look like?
The guests are a motley assortment of the dead. Clans vary wildly. There are far more Gangrel and Bruja than you would expect. And far fewer Tremere and Ventru than you would expect.
Okay.
Some of them have embraced the prince's esoteric style. Many of them do not. Some of them are, dressed in dresses and finery, but for the most part, business suits and leather jackets do just fine.
Understandable.
But they sip their blood and schmooze.
Much schmoozing to be had by all.
Obvious interactables include the crowd, the librarian, the jester, the one-breasted man, and of course the prince himself.
like to strike up a conversation with the one-breasted man.
He gives you a sniff and says, "Oh, yes, it's you. Deadwood Abbey, right?"
Got it.
That is not the name of your organization.
I do not disabuse him of the notion that he got his inquiry right.
We generally take turns in the schedule, but today we've all decided to appear. But what brings you to us?
We found some very unusual things going on in this little city of ours.
Oh, yes. Naughty, naughty. North Central Positronics. There are some of us who wanted to investigate, but we understand it's better to defend and respond than go attacking. That's your job, isn't it?
It certainly can be.
Are you saying that it can be because it won't be until it is? Or are you saying that it can be because it is until you can't?
It can be until it is because it can't if we don't.
I
But we will.
see.
But what gets me curious, where did you get the sword?
We made this one. The last one was a piss poor replica. But it's not for all of us.
Well, that makes sense. Something so precious shouldn't be tossed around willy-nilly.
No. We mean... he stops, focuses, and his body reshapes. Into the form of like an amateurish white guy dork, who is wearing the tabard now with pride. It's for me. And then he takes a moment and focuses, and his features take on a much more feminine appearance, and his hair gets a little bit longer. And now he's got two boobs. And then she says, "But not so much for me."
All right. That makes more sense.
And then he adopts some mildly Asian features and says, "Although I respect the sword, this wouldn't be my preference." And then it returns to the amalgamation. But, as we said, we've decided to approach united.
That seems only fair for the party tonight.
Exactly. Should we be sent out into the field? Well, I don't want to reveal who's on the schedule, but the scheduled person will go out. And the other
The
three,
schedule will appear as the schedule should be.
and the other four will play support. We all know our roles. But you may refer to us simply as the C Consciousness, or C for short.
Well, though I know we've met before, it's a pleasure to meet you again, C.
Yes, right, Deadwood Abbey.
Funny, isn't it?
You must forgive us. There's so much on our minds.
I can barely keep one straight.
Then you understand. But yes, anything you share with us will be used responsibly, we assure you.
Oh, I'd imagine nothing but.
Make a wits and subterfuge roll. I'm sorry, wits and empathy.
at it. Oh, Jesus. Ah, hmm. Six successes on 5 dice.
Such things have been known to happen. Um, uh, uh, they are. Their promises do not account for much. Um, Collectively, they're responsible. Individually, they definitely are not.
Fair.
When everyone gets a seat at the table, cooler heads prevail. But when one of them gets to pull rank, when one of them gets to be in charge, none of them is a responsible person. Any information that C gets hold of is almost certain to be dealt with irresponsibly. It's not a lie, it's just a promise that they don't know they won't be able to keep.
An airtight repository of secrets, C is not.
Yeah, exactly. But Easter, is there anything else you want to say or ask?
What would be the best way to contact you should I come across any interesting tidbits to share?
Oh, gracious, we used to have a phone, but it got covered in algae. I would suggest using the courier. Do you know him?
Do I?
I don't believe so. He has, a website?
Ah, beautiful.
We're not exactly sure how those work, and neither does our dear vizier, but I'm certain you can look him up.
I have a person for that. And she gives a charming smile over to Yusuf, who probably has no idea he's being talked about.
All ready for you.
Marvelous. Fantastic. As
Um,
much...
Just some Dr. Pepper, maybe some deli meat, and some chicken for orange chicken tomorrow.
Yep, we've got chicken in the fridge.
Fantastic.
But I will double check.
Definitely do it for that.
As much as we eschew the world of the technologic, we are beginning to understand that it is useful. That being said, none of us are very good at it.
That I understand. Well, I'll look you up sometime. We should catch a show.
Yes! We've been planning one for quite some time.
I look forward to hearing about it.
Yusuf, who do you want to go and schmooze with?
He's kind of been meandering around the throne room for most of Easter's conversation. I imagine that this mansion is, or I keep calling it a mansion, this house is very old. Has original woodwork. Is it fancy inside?
Yes.
Does he have any interesting things like on display in the throne room?
The art varies between like bamboo laced naturescapes and Hieronymus Bosch nightmares.
Is it an original Bosch?
Perhaps. Make an intelligence and crafts roll or expression, whichever is greater.
Oh, wow, expression. I have a dot in that. That's fantastic. Dice roller 2.
Maybe. Although, that would be very difficult. Um, weren't Bosch's final paintings written during his death throes?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge.
Like, on the walls of his home?
Uh,
Because he suffered some sort of very powerful mental illness and, like, really sort of couldn't take care of himself and just spent his days painting until he died. If I recall correctly.
my limited art history tells me that you are correct.
Alrighty then.
In broad strokes.
Right. So, yeah, maybe.
But I would like to gravitate eventually towards the librarian. Surprise, surprise.
Um. She looks at you and just says, aren't you a modern one?
I suppose so. If you had a moment, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
By all means.
It might be an unpleasant topic. About the people of yours that were taken that the prince mentioned. I indeed am distracted by that painting staring at me.
I mean, if it's any consolation, the son survived.
It's not much of a consolation.
No, it's not much of a consolation.
I had the thought that perhaps since both your people and Sabat were taken, it might have been a third party that the lab might have hired to capture your kind.
That's a distinct possibility.
Do you recall at all where they were taken? Was it from one area or all over the city?
All over. Many from their own havens. You're clever.
Oh, focused.
Either way,
Thanks.
I respect that. She takes you aside and says, please understand who I have to deal with. Now then. Now, what I am willing to tell you, and when I tell you to keep this under your hat, you understand that there's a promise bound in blood.
For you and me, quite literally, yes.
I have been unable to track the culprits magically.
Interesting.
Which is not necessarily, I'll be willing to admit, that's not necessarily so uncommon. There are many simple counter charms that can break that sort of clairvoyance, but
it means that they know them.
Exactly. These are not amateurs. We're dealing with some level of professionals. Which is probably why the prince wants you to handle it. As far as he's concerned, you made this problem, and he wants you to fix it.
Well, in a way, he's right. Whatever they were doing in that lab was something that we need to make sure doesn't happen again.
I absolutely agree. That much wiring has got to be a cosmic crime.
Would you mind if I sent you a message to ask you, or let you know when we find these people? I think I would find you in a more consistent mood than he glances over at the prince.
You'd be surprised. He's been able to ride that wave of mania for nearly 20 years. But the crash is coming. We all know it.
All you can do is prepare then. And Yusuf smiles and kind of wanders back to meandering around the little ballroom.
Holmes, is there anybody you want to chat with?
Yes. I actually want to chat with the prince.
Sounds good. You sidle up to the prince's throne. Ah, a real dyed-in-the-wool investigator.
Indeed. It's nice to meet you as well. Um, I was curious as to what are the rules of your masquerade?
Oh, the basics. What you would expect. No water, no feeding after midnight, all that good stuff. I try to keep things fairly civil here. We predate on humans, obviously, but that's no reason to kill anyone. And we generally administer justice, and when we can't, that's when we call on you.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's my responsibility to keep the peace, which means mostly keeping the Sabbat at bay. I understand that good fences make good neighbors, and I want to be a good neighbor. Some people would say that that makes me weak. It means that I'm letting the kind walk all over us. Look upon me. Do you see a single boot tread on my gown?
Not one.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the Sabbat would love to tear down that fence and the home too, because they don't want any neighbors. They want to be the owners of the plantation, and to make all of you their blood slaves.
Listen desirable.
Exactly. I understand the value of diplomacy. They understand the value of force. And you may be good at handling the wayward soul or two, but please understand that when it comes to matter of kindred, it should be left to the kindred.
Tend to leave the affairs of vampires to vampires, so we're in agreement there. I was just curious as to what kind of interactions we might be having.
Well, I mean, obviously you know about us.
Yes?
Strictly speaking, we should string you up and bind you in vinculum, but no. There's no need for that. You have the protections of your societies, and they would surely retaliate. As I said, diplomacy. But obviously, don't go around telling anyone else about us. Play coy. Obviously, supernaturals omitted. The local bound throng know where to find us, and the freehold. Ooh. Have you visited the freehold yet?
Not yet.
They'll be calling you next. Omar and his merry band, Hip Hop and Pop, if they are, know exactly where to find us as well. Make a wits and empathy roll.
Alright. Character sheet, wits and empathy. There's the wits. Where's the empathy? Oh, there it is. I do have it, so that helps.
That's good.
Let's see. And... Come on. Internet's slow for some reason. Alright. Hey, I got one success.
Hey! There is evidently some bad blood between the prince and the freehold in some way. This is to be expected. There is almost certainly some form of territory war. They both feed on humans. They both feed on kind in their own way. So, as disgusting as it may sound, they do have the city divvied up into different feeding grounds.
Okay, and the freehold is werewolves, or...
The freehold is changelings.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
The local pack of werewolves lies far outside the city. They probably don't have too much interaction within.
Okay, good to know. Everyone's got their little territory.
Exactly. Everyone's carved out their little kingdom.
Out of curiosity, if we should have to deal with any vampires on our investigation, I imagine best to go to you first, unless our lives are in danger.
Yes. And if possible, bring them in alive.
If possible.
A stake to the heart ensures safe travel.
That just paralyze them?
Yes. Bring them.
I've heard.
Bring them to us, and we'll be able to handle the rest.
Understood.
But obviously, I am understanding if lives must be taken and final deaths must be doled out. But please understand the diplomatic strain that it puts on me. I may have to ask for recompense in return.
Understood.
Someone has to clean up the spilled blood, and I fear that will have to be you.
Well, that's good to know. Politics. That works.
That being said, if any shovelheads get in your way, they're obviously not under my protection. Oh,
Good to
and
know.
give my regards to any anarchs you might meet. As much as they might prize their independence, I do care for them in my own way.
Gonna put a point in politics as soon as I can.
Evidently, the anarchs are vampires who wish to breathe free. So basically, there are 3 levels of vampire quote-unquote government. There's the Camarilla, of which the prince is a representative, who have a series of laws and rules that are like, okay, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. If you fuck around, we'll fucking kill you. The anarchs are much less rules, and it's policed much more loosely. Like, things, yeah, like, things get policed much more loosely. It's, like, if someone cares, someone will try to stop it. If nobody gives a fuck, then nothing will happen. Which is often not a good policy for justice. And vampire anarch communes do have leaders. They're referred to as barons, but they have much less centralized power. A baron of a certain territory basically means I'm the biggest, toughest guy there. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that they're a brute or a tyrant. It just means you're talking to the pusher and mover. And then the Sabbat are a bunch of authoritarian douchebag assholes with a megapope who are trying to take over the world.
Frequently, wear red baseball caps.
Yes. They're gonna they're gonna make the world vampiric again. But like, little do they understand that, like, yeah, vampires are really cool, but if the humans, if all of humanity knew that vampires were a thing, like, vampires would get wiped the fuck out. Which is why the Camis and Anarchs can even agree we need to kick these shitheads out of our neighborhoods. But they're always planning or plotting, and unfortunately a lot of the Sabbat higher-ups are very old and very powerful. You know what they say, evil never dies. It just sleeps.
Rumors of the ancient ones waking up. Not a good thing.
No, that tends to be like some end of the world bullshit.
Who's ready for Gehenna?
No one. Literally no one.
No one can be ready for Gehenna. It's Gehenna.
That being said, like, I've toned down, like, the number of sleeping ancients that there are and shit like that. So the threat is ever looming, but it's not It's not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like evident. It's not,
Cataclysmic.
yeah. At the same time, like, the prince here might be like maybe 200 years old, but even so, like, he could easily be bested by a 60-year-old vampire with nothing to lose. Like,
So the power differential isn't just.
yeah, it's not as vast as it is in Old Wad. And
I need to finish playing Bloodlines.
and like generation isn't a thing in New Wad, and I'm kind of glad they got rid of it. Instead, there is blood potency.
Yeah.
And so you could expect the prince of someplace to have maybe 5 or 6 blood potency, which is not like impossible to get, especially because I have included rules where you can gain blood potency naturally. Every 100 points of vitae you consume, okay, every point of blood potency can be purchased with XP or 100 points of vitae per new dot. So after you acquire 200 points of vitae, you become, you get 2 blood potency. And then 500 points of vitae, you get 3 dots. And then 900 points of vitae, 4 dots. So, like, you could conceivably go on a multi-year gorging frenzy and just get that blood potency up, but most vampires don't want to do that because you reach the point where you can only feed on other vampires, and that's when they have to stake you and put you in a hole in the ground until you fucking calm down, because that shit's just fucking unacceptable.
Yeah, because doesn't your blood potency get lowered by going into torpor?
Yes, you can go into torpor voluntarily or involuntarily. And for every year you spend for every year times current dots, you lose a point in blood potency. So if you had 7 blood potency and they put you in the ground for 20 years, you would lose 3 dots of blood potency and bring you back down to 4. But
Okay.
A lot of vampires think that they can sleep their problems away. But
I would if I was a vampire.
Right? But, like, in 20 years, you get out of that hole. Imagine if you went to sleep in the year 2000 and woke up in the year 2020.
Oh.
I'd go back to sleep.
Oh god.
Yeah.
It has not been a good 20 years.
Or, like, imagine if you went to sleep in the year 1920 and you said, fuck this World War shit, and then woke up in 1940. Oh, fuck, it's happening again!
What do you mean it's happening again?
Like, the point is, going into torpor to lower your blood potency is a huge pain in the ass. The only other way to lower your blood potency is to sire a vampire, but under Camarilla law, that's illegal.
Well, the ones who decided to put money in the stock market in like 1920 and to go into have a nice torpor were really unhappy when they woke up in 1940.
F.
Nothing left.
At that point, well, if you voluntarily go into torpor, you can choose to wake up, but you would wake up and be like, where are my attendants? Where's my house? Where is everything? So yeah, the issue with voluntarily going into torpor to lower your blood potency, or for any reason, is simply that, like, the problems just get worse. You can't run away from them, and now you are weaker than you were, and you probably won't be able to deal with them as efficiently. But as I said, the only alternative is siring more vampires, which under Camarilla law is illegal, but you can petition the prince for special permissions to sire, even though it's against the law.
You need a child permit.
You need a baby making permit. Whereas the anarchs, they run a little bit more loosey-goosey with that. Like, they're loosey-goosey with everything, which often leads to abuses and problems. And then the Sabbat, you guys ready for the Shovelhead game? Coming to a World of Darkness GM near you. The Sabbat will sire people just to make them more powerful so that they die as shock troops. But if you sire with no blood potency to give, occasionally the subject comes as a thin blood, and that's where thin bloods come from. And
I'm learning so much.
Hey!
This is very informative. I'm glad I asked.
And then thin
Honestly,
bloods.
this helps tell us what type of world you're building here.
Exactly. So, the prince gives you a basic political rundown. He loves doing this sort of thing. It's one of his favorite performances.
Spotlight
This
comes
is-
down. He picks up a microphone like he's on a TED Talk.
And
Yeah, this is where I gain my point of politics.
Hey, and all of the other vampires leave. They've heard it before.
Does he have one
Like-
of those little tiny microphones that sticks out around his mouth?
No, he's got an old 1930s singing can.
Where did it come from? It just appeared there. You blinked.
You weren't paying attention. If you don't pay
It was there the whole time.
if you don't pay attention around a Malkavian, anything can happen.
Next thing you know, you're in the bedroom.
Next thing you know, you're in the bedroom. He's smoking. He's very disappointed. You don't know what you did, but you fucked up. But Holmes, that's what you get. Alex, is there anyone you would like to speak to, or anything you would like to do?
You mentioned that there were some gangrel present. Anyone who looks, anyone who looks interesting from my point of view, I guess. Not Alex is not really very well tuned to the upper strata of society.
Clan Gangrel doesn't have any secrets. I can dig it.
Bruja might work as well. Again, Alex is most interested in talking to people who are live in the real world, as she
Right.
sees them.
Oh wow, that's an old microphone.
And that is what he's got. Everybody else files in once he's done. The sheriff is obligated to stay. They feign interest. The only one who's glad to hear him do it again is the dog. You walk up to this gentleman and he just says, "Is it time for a clash of the Titans?"
Is that some sort of pop culture reference?
I mean, yes and no. It's pretty self-explanatory. I can tell you're their muscle. You can tell I'm our muscle.
Oh.
I look at him, my brows are gathered a bit. Do you have any information that's pertinent to what's going on? Most of the ones here speak in a language I'm not terribly familiar with.
I know the feeling. Well, I respect someone who is willing to speak plain, like the laymen do. Yeah, a bunch of our people got kidnapped. Some of them came back, some of them didn't. They're all trying to settle in. Some of them are really fucked up. I don't mean in like he gestures to his body, and he's like, I mean, and he gestures to his head, and then he gestures to his heart.
Have any of them talked about what happened to them?
Yeah, quite a few, really. I... Do me a favor.
Vampire or not, Alex does not like the idea of people being, kind of, kidnapped and taken against their will and restrained. It doesn't set well with her.
Yeah. All right. You do something for me later on. Maybe I can hook you up with an interview, but we'll have to wait for an opportunity to present itself. You know how it is. Most of them were just being used as vitae harvesters. Most of them exsanguinated and fed repeatedly again and again, used as basically like a filter or a percolator for human blood to turn it into vitae to be used for God knows what. But a couple of them were put through stress tests.
Just in the back of her throat, there is a sort of a low growl coming from Alex.
He growls in approval. Some of them were put through stress tests.
I'm beginning to understand why I was asked to join in this endeavor.
Exactly.
I'll do my best for your people.
Thanks. You might be better at ripping shit up than I am. Maybe. But, yeah. Mostly it was... The ones who came back were mostly vitae harvesters. And it really brought into perspective exactly how important the emotional connection with feeding is. It's easy to, a lot of people think...
It sounds similar to sex.
Yeah, you can just do it and feel nothing, but that means there's something fucking wrong with you. But if you care about someone, or if you flirt with someone, or make it fun, or if there's a little cat and mouse, a little hunt involved, that blood suddenly has a purpose, it has a meaning. But when some guy shoves a funnel down your throat and takes an IV out,
Wow.
it feels like your body's being used.
It is indeed.
That leads to beastly thinking, and that's the last thing we need. Leads to people going shovelhead, you know what I mean?
Not exactly, no. But if any of them are willing to speak with me, in these circumstances, I am capable of tact.
Marvelous. No, if it's any of mine, talking won't be necessary. Don't worry, they speak fluently in grunt and growl.
Well, were there other beings held, or other sorts of creatures beyond your type?
Definitely.
Sounded.
But don't know too much about them. None of
And
those Frankensteins came crawling back home to us.
I presume your people include trackers as well.
That they do.
And no luck in following those trails.
Some of the things we're looking for don't bleed.
I was just curious if any of your people had identified places early on where the escaped creatures might have gone. There is a subway system in Chicago, is there not?
There is. I imagine most of them went home. But now that you mention it, some of the scenes of abductions aren't adding up too much anymore. It seemed like a lot of them were Sabbat raids. Typical shit. But normally they're not that egregious. It's clear now that these weren't Sabbat raids.
people attempting to make the Sabbat seem the guilty party to deflect attention. Clever.
Exactly. And I mean, there's no reason to investigate that suspicion. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, the Sabbat tried to fuck us over. More at 11. This just in, water is wet. And the sun is a deadly laser. So, we're dealing with someone who's seriously forensical.
That is most useful information. You have my gratitude.
You're welcome. And if it's any consolation, I can tell you that there wasn't any Tremere blood magic involved.
Alex looks blankly. Your name?
Just call me Rut.
Rut, you may call me Alex. It has been a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Nice to meet you too. I'd shake your hands, but we shouldn't.
Hands are for different things. She nods her head respectfully.
That being said, after this conversation, the soiree appears to be coming to an end. The prince gets up and claps his hand and says, come now, we can't spend all night drinking blood, we have to go get some more. Thank you very much for joining me, my new and esteemed guests. I will speak to you more in the future, but until then, right, yes, investigation, freehold, don't forget. You leave Omar waiting and he's liable to get upset.
Well, we wouldn't want that.
No. Oh, check the graveyard for the local freehold. He's become fond of them.
Give a respectful nod and start to head back towards the foyer and coat room.
To give a respectful nod. I had a wonderful time.
Easter gives a little curtsy.
Alex, you understand more than the rest of them. That dog's chain is purely ornamental. If a werewolf wants to break a chain, he'll break it. But the prince releases it from its anchor hold and begins to walk the wolf around.
I still find that profoundly irritating, but
Yeah, no, like it's super fucked up. Like on like it's a very murky situation.
well, I am familiar with damaged people, so
That's true.
I know how screwed up it is. As long as it's consensual, Alex is okay.
As consensual as it can possibly be. Also, no, never mind. Anyway, y'all get back into Easter's Kia. Where to?
That was good,
Thank you.
Kane.
I am the Methuselah of Chicago today.
Sure you are. But he didn't say what graveyard.
He might not know.
I take out my smartphone and start looking up how many graveyards are in Chicago.
Hey.
A lot.
Let's start with the oldest.
9 Chicago area historic cemeteries to explore.
Talk them all.
Graceland, Rose Hill, Oak Woods, Bohemian National, the Chicago City Cemetery, Bachelor's Grove, and the Cavalry Catholic. I guess that's
This
only
is-
7, but whatever.
This is more politics.
I think it's more luck at this point. Which one
Mm,
sounds the most Fey?
That's the thing. Everybody give me an intelligence and occult roll.
Gladly.
Oh,
That's a,
sure it's not wits.
It is, unfortunately,
I got
it
one.
is not.
I am rolling horribly.
That's a
It's
0.
one success.
That's okay. I got you guys 3.
Yay! I had 6 dice and it didn't work.
I've been there. Yusef.
Yeah.
Omar, his merry band, hip hop and pop. You've got a distinct impression. You want to go to the Bohemian National Cemetery.
Well, if they like to party. Might as well try there. It's also alphabetically first.
When you arrive, it's hard to believe that this is in the city. It seems almost overgrown.
Wow.
Huh.
Neat.
The gravestones are under siege by the local fauna. Flora. They appear to be losing.
well, only if they. They're only losing if it's a competition. It may not be.
Well, we just came out of a vampire party at an old Victorian house. Perhaps we should watch out for mushroom circles in the graveyard?
Very wise.
Alex takes off her leather jacket, then strips out of her t-shirt and unbuckles her jeans. She hands the leather jacket to Easter.
Easter folds it delicately over one arm.
Hands you the she had left the Bowie knife in the car. So she strips completely nude and then turns into a large black canine.
Woof.
Easter just nods. Like, yeah, that tracks.
Werewolves in Chicago.
He
Oh.
picks his jaw up off the floor. Right. Not the strangest thing I've seen.
I start sniffing for anything that's not of this place.
It's not too
I'm
hard
just
for
thinking
you
of
to
dog
find.
names.
Roll that beautiful wits and composure with your +2 bonus.
I know.
Welcome to the world of smell-o-vision. Oh my god. Okay. You start
Sniff, sniff.
sniffing. You start sniffing around, and you bolt. The trail is as clear as the full moon on a cloudless night, and it leads you directly to a sarcophagus
Oh.
of one.
This is a good boy.
What
Is that what he
boy.
turned into?
No,
So
something more along these lines.
You
Oh.
find the
Wolf and Never-Ending Story.
yes. You find the mausoleum of one Forbes Marsh. And its gate is clearly illusion, and between its doors lies a warp
Oh.
in smell-o-vision. The scents here do not make sense. This is clearly the portal to the Freehold.
did the others follow? How far away did I go?
You kind of took off.
About to say, did the rest of you try to give chase?
Tried.
There's a speedy little puppy.
They tried to, absolutely.
Yep.
Eventually, you're able to catch up. The large black wolf is hard to miss. That
Except
being
when she
said-
wants to be.
Hmm?
Except when she wants to be.
That's true.
That being said, Alex, when you're in wolf form, it makes you so impetuous.
When I see them arriving, I sort of looking back, making an occasional sort of a whine. When I see them approach, I change back to human. Only take my clothes from Easter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That seems to be the entrance there.
Do we see anything?
You see a closed mausoleum.
Cool.
Suppose we have to find a way to move the stone.
I go over and I go over to the door and touch my hand to it. It seems an illusion to my. Or does my hand pass through, or is it solid?
Your hand passes right through.
I step forward.
Um. Like, you go to push, and there's a mild mimetic effect. Like, you don't, like, at first it seems as if you are pushing through the bars and there's nothing there, and then the lock on it suddenly disappears and you're pushing the gate open. If you were not wary of what was happening, you would think instead that the gate were simply unlocked.
Yep.
Interesting.
Time to step in.
You step in and begin down the stairs, and you come upon a rather hobbit hole of a door, upon which there is a riddle.
Little pillar.
Hmm. Oh,
A map?
map.
Oh, that's clever.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Yes.
Easter, you grab hold of the knob and think map, and it begins to turn.
She gives an enormous smile.
On the other side, there is a rather clean, homeless man. He is black. He is wearing some sort of military jacket, jeans, and boots. And he looks up at the four of you and says, I told him it was too easy.
I appreciated it.
I bet. I expect you're the one you're the out of towners.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
And he gestures to you, Easter, and says, figuratively speaking, in your situation.
Of course.
Glad you understand. Then you'll be wanting to come with me. Welcome to the Chicago Freehold. My name is Cookie.
Lovely to meet you.
He leads you down the finely fashioned, route-bound tunnel, which leads into an underground bustling town, far larger than the space would suggest. The changelings around are of all sorts of shapes and sizes. Ogres, elementals, and then the rest. Wizened and fairest don't exactly stand out between each other, but any amount of examination reveals them for what they are. Where is my changeling book? Skin Changers is great, but it's not what I want right now. No. Yay! That is exactly what's going on. Yep. Welcome to the troll market. Oop. Nice.
Maybe unpopular opinion, but I really liked Hellboy too.
I also
Oh, I
really
That
loved
was
it.
pretty good.
It was
Really,
beautiful. That angel with the wings
yeah.
is actually a fairly accurate biblical angel.
There's so many cool background elements in that movie. From a world building standpoint, it's super, super fun to watch.
Yeah, aside from Pan's Labyrinth, it's my favorite art direction of any of his movies.
Yeah.
And Pan's Labyrinth is just in a class by itself, but
It's not
Absolutely.
fair to compare it to
It's an
anything.
interesting one.
have you guys been to seen the exhibit of Guillermo del Toro's personal collection?
No, not
Nope.
yet.
No. But I
Yeah.
do have a big book that has pictures of it.
I saw it over at the AGO. It was really good. Just crazy good. His maquettes for the penguins from At the Mountains of Madness are so creepy.
Yo.
Right. The Darklings.
Check that out.
They're. Oh, sorry. I always forget about beasts and Darklings. Beasts are, what they sound like: fawns, monkey kings, undines, that sort of thing. And then Darklings are like, goblins, hags, the Invisible Man, tentacle people. No, you didn't hear anything. Must have been your imagination. And then there are the elementals, who are, think of an element. They're kind of like it. They're the fairest, who are, they're the pretty ones. And then there are the ogres, who are the brutish ones. Trolls, that sort of thing. And then there are the wizened, very elven. Impossible? Not at all. Not for me. It's difficult enough that you'll need to pay in advance, but no, not impossible.
Oh, I'm saving that and I'm putting it in my game.
Rather you didn't.
Don't it's no shh. Let it happen.
Ooh-wee. But Cookie helps push you through the crowds toward what is apparently an administrative office. And its door is labeled Omar, the poet. Omar, the poet prophet. And he gives a special knock on the door, and it unlocks and opens up.
Do I know any changelings in Kali's raiders?
Yes, they're very few. Changelings are often a tight-knit bunch. Mostly because they're so welcome in freeholds. It's very rare for them to join the raiders, and often the raiders are approached for changelings to join the freehold, and it's not like a mere to say no. It's very rare.
Is a fetch, right? So he's a type of sort of a changeling.
Yes. So he's very on the one hand, he's kind of afraid of them because he knows they can fuck with him more than anything else can. But on the flip side, he also he ultimately he leaves it up to the changeling in question if they want to be among their own people. And more often than not, they choose to join the freehold because it's where they know they'll be ultimately accepted. It's simpler that way. It's the relationship between the raiders and the local freehold is probably one of the most delicate. So yeah, you are vaguely familiar with changelings. Usually the ones that stick around are oddly enough like beasts, fairest, and ogres. It's a common attitude among ogres to, out here, they're not treated like beasts of burden. They're treated like, people. And they're afraid that they'll be treated poorly if they go to the freehold. Whereas some of the fairest are afraid of how daunting the politics will be in the freehold. And beasts always yearn to live free. So, what's freer than a freehold? Hanging out with fucking humans. I know. Wild, right? Bucking the trend.
Question.
Shoot.
What is the task force's opinion of the changelings?
Task Force Valkyrie is fascinated by changelings. Because of the supernatural creatures, they are the most human. They are often more fascinated by the concept of changeling contracts, oniromancy, and their crafting abilities, as well as the properties of goblin fruits.
Goblin fruits of all things.
Yes. More so than anything, they kind of treat changelings like natives who know a native cure, and that allegory should come with all of the imperialism that it implies. If you don't tell us the secret to this cure, we'll just have to take it from you. But
That strikes
freeholds,
me some kind of way.
yeah, but freeholds are often very well hidden, and even more so, very well defended. As much as Task Force Valkyrie would like to say that they have the supernatural well in hand, the changelings by and far are most well defended against Task Force Valkyrie arms. Mostly because they simply cannot. They've got anti-magic bullets, they've got anti-magic guns, they've got anti-magic plating. Fairy magic isn't quote-unquote magic.
It's an innate other thing that only the label of magic can describe.
Right.
The task force doesn't have anything specifically in the advanced armory to fight Fae.
Exactly.
We can see them real good.
Mm-hmm.
Can't fight them.
Yep. A lot of the oh god. Particularly Task Force Valkyrie is most frightened by the contracts of the hearth. A broad path of beneficial effects. And the thing is, contracts of the hearth, when used over much, turn into curses. And there is no resistance to these curses that has been discovered as of yet.
Oof.
They've tried. 4-leaf clovers, charms, counter charms, fucking nothing works. The gentleman behind the administrative desk looks like the rat man homeless king. He's wearing a suit that is very ornately torn. The left side of his face is covered in bramble scars. There is an elemental standing nearby whose head is ablaze, but his beard is salt and pepper. He's got a very large fire axe hanging nearby. And there is a black man with the affect of a regular gangbanger listening to music on an iPod. He has an Uzi on the armrest next to him. The safety is on. The black man does not have any changeling affect. As a matter of fact, neither does Cookie. The man behind the desk is... Oh, you know what? This is a sausage fest. The woman has burning hair and a bit of salt and pepper scruff.
You're my favorite.
Thank you. And that being said, she's jacked as fuck. Like, the dude was jacked, but he had like he was more like a Kevin Nash jacked. Like, she's not that jacked. But he looks up. The man behind the desk looks up at each of you and says, "Oh, you're early."
We made good time.
That you did. I don't think there's a way to rescind the courier. You'll get a message from Ivan soon enough.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. You can ignore it. It's an invitation. Apparently, you don't need it. Welcome to the Freehold. He gets up from behind the desk, puts a glove on, and puts out his hand to shake.
Easter takes his hand and shakes it.
And next.
It is a very gentlemanly but limp handshake.
Fair.
This man is clearly not strong. Although... So, the prince's superpower was clearly, in a way, being a Malkavian. Just like, hey, I'm a Malkavian, I've got high energy, I can see things before they happen. This guy, it's sort. Everybody, give me a wits and politics roll to try to figure out how the fuck this schlub is in power.
Sure.
Just minus 1
Okay.
die. Oh no, that's politics of knowledge. Minus 3 dice.
Yep.
Right?
And I fail.
2 successes.
Hey. Wop.
I don't technically have that point yet.
Easter. You've never been down here. Oh, Alex, what happened?
Completely useless, but another 10 on a chance die. Just like
Nice.
rolled 2 of them and
Nice.
full times.
So it makes sense for you to know pack tactics.
Exactly. Alex, you understand there's strength in numbers. Easter, you've never been into the Freehold. You've never been invited. You have been to the graveyard before. That being said, you did need a reminder of which one it was. You don't.
That's fair.
You've only come here like twice, maybe, in like the 12 years you've been doing this.
Yeah.
Fuck, you can't keep track. There's fucking like 12 of these things in the city.
I got shit I've been doing.
Right? Ignore your eidetic memory. Shush. It's not perfect.
I will allow it.
Wait a minute. Oh shit. You think that might be the glamour?
That would do it.
You're like, wait a minute, I have an eidetic memory. I can't forget. Oh, never mind. I can be made to forget. It's clear to you that the reason this guy is in charge is because he has friends. And 3 of them are in the room with him right now. And they don't look like the most dangerous crew on the planet. But when your crew is big enough, they don't need each of them to be dangerous.
Apes together strong.
Exactly. The guy who let you in the front door reaches into a drawer and pulls out a steaming cold PBR. Anybody want one? He tosses it to you, and then reaches into the drawer and takes out another.
Steaming cold what?
Thanks.
Pabst Blue Ribbon. It's a can of cheap, awful beer.
Oh.
Tasty. Glug, glug, glug.
It is not tasty. But it is booze.
And cold.
And it is cold. You're not exactly sure. Whatever. Fairy stuff, maybe? Anyway.
Coldness can forgive a lot of beverage sins, in my opinion.
It can.
That is correct.
I have had a PBR cold and I've had a PBR warm. And only one of them made me throw up, and you get 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. Truly, a warm PBR is the most vile thing on the planet.
Yeah.
But, so, behind the desk, he looks at all of you and just says, "Thank you very much for coming. You understand the nature of what's going on, I suppose."
As well as we can.
So, yes, I imagine if you spoke to the prince already, and I know you spoke to the prince, that means you know that we're each missing people. Now, I have it under good account that his people are dead, but I believe mine have been kidnapped by the local loyalists. They do know where we live, and they would know what was going on. And unfortunately, they are very good at remaining hidden. So, my people were taken. Some of his people were taken, but mostly his Sabbat were taken, which means now his Sabbat are bolstered, which creates problems for him, not problems for me. That being said, my good people are in the hands of loyalists. Are you familiar with loyalists?
Not at
No.
all.
Ah,
In politics.
it's what kills you, man. It'll be good for you to learn.
Yes.
I am not a fairy. Thank goodness. The Fae are a dangerous and eclectic race of creature. And Each of us here at the Freehold was taken from our homes at some point and brought through the hedge to the world of the Fae. And they made us what we are. And those of us who are here had the good sense and ability to escape. Fae may be powerful, but they're also neglectful, which is not necessarily the blessing that it may seem to be. Now then, there are some of us, when we escape, trying to reintegrate into human society is difficult. The glamour only works so well. You can't go back to your family. You need to figure out what to do with your fetch. And you've got no identity. You'll have to live on the outskirts of society one way or another. And sadly, sadly, changelings make poor company. What's the platitude? Familiarity breeds contempt. That sort of thing. Which means some of us want to try to go back. Now, going back is more complicated than it seems. Strangely enough, getting out is easier than going back in. But more so than that, you'd better be coming with a gift. That's where the prisoners come into play.
So you think that these loyalists are going to exchange your captured people to secure their passage to the hedge?
No, they know how to get to the hedge. Everybody does. They're going to exchange the prisoners for clemency in the eyes of their slavers.
I see.
How many of these people are there?
It's hard to tell.
Forget.
How many of your people have you confirmed are taken?
8. So, they've probably got more than 8. Still, I don't know where they are. If I did, then I would handle it. But I don't. And now you're here. So I'm going to ask you to handle it. Ask is in very large quotes.
Well, we can
Is there
certainly
anything-
try.
Is there any way you could help us to handle it?
Sadly, well, there's one thing that I can do. I suspect my people may have used a local hedge entrance in order to get home more quickly and more quietly. They were desperate, discombobulated, almost certainly confused. They should have known it was a bad idea, but couldn't know that it was a bad idea. So, there is a hedge entrance, and he produces a map of the city and points to where the lab was, and there is a small forested area nearby. There is a hedge entrance there. That's where they went in.
And that's where you lost them.
Yes. The loyalists have to be somewhere between there and us. I would go myself, but you can understand why we're hesitant to go into the hedge, even for simple purposes. You never know who's watching. Worse yet, you never know when your owner is watching. And some of us are more desired than others.
As if these Fae and these loyalists are problems that need to be taken care of.
I respect and I commend your... And the guy listening to music speaks up and he says, "You don't want to fight a ferryman. You don't want to do that. They'll fucking turn you inside out.
Yeah.
They don't have to play by the rules. Shit, they wrote most of them."
Truly ancient beings.
The firewoman speaks up and she just says, "Time don't measure so well in the time don't measure so well in the Fey world. Doesn't measure too well in the hedge either."
So I have Dresden rolls, or
What was that?
is it kind of like with Dresden Files, or
How does it work in Dresden Files?
hard to explain? They haven't really gone into the Fae. It's like time doesn't really work there. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower.
That is
Uh,
exactly how it works.
okay, excellent. I
Uh,
have a framework.
In Dresden, the winter court,
Yep.
those would be nicer than the nicest of the Fae from this setting.
Oh, well, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
oh yeah, fairies like humans because they're easier to what's the word I'm looking for? Mold, physically,
Oh,
psychically, magically.
Gotcha.
that's now they are at the top of my list of terrifying.
Oh, they weren't already there?
Yes.
No, I figured the
Fae.
werewolf might beat them out.
No, true Fae in World of Darkness are not something you fight. They're something you survive.
Understood. Readjusting that calculation.
And that is what Juice is trying to relate to Alex. The dude in the chair's name is Juice.
Alex has no idea about any of this. She just heard about massive human trafficking endeavor that she really wants to do something about. So
Which is why it makes it so important that we have to make sure that they don't get into the enemy's hands. Yes, all the most important. Once they're sold down the river, they may be unrecoverable. Both
So we have the
physically
time.
and mentally. Yes. That being said, blissfully access to the Feywild is exceptionally difficult. Whether they're trying to cut their way through the hedge, or whether they're trying to cut their way through the hedge, or they're trying to find a route, either will take them a large amount of time.
cutting the way from White Wolf to the Wizards of the Coast is really difficult.
It's pretty fucking hard.
If they're trying to brute force their way into the Feywild, they would have to use a considerable amount of power, which I assume we may be able to track down ourselves with even our rudimentary devices.
You have rudimentary devices? Then,
Etheric goggles?
then yes, certainly. It's difficult for our diviners to track them in the Feywild. It's like looking for a speck on a screen of static.
That is such a good metaphor.
Worse yet, because the static is always shifting.
Fuck.
Static.
That being said, Yusef, you actually have it on good account that you and Holmes know that your devices remain stable in the hedge. Anything that's tried to go into the Feywild themselves has been fucking utterly destroyed in some fashion.
I have a lot of gizmos. I do not want to have destroyed.
Exactly. But he seems shocked that you might have something that will work. Shocked and relieved.
It's the only shop that I can think of.
Do you have anything that belongs to any of the ones who were taken?
Yes, I do. Give me a moment. he looks to the firewoman and says, "Pop, if you would." And then he looks to Cookie and says, "And ooh, Cookie, could you do your little trick there?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I could." And he like crouches down below the desk and comes out with like a handful of little trinkets and baubles.
Oh, cool.
And then Pop comes back with some more like little articles of clothing, things like that.
I pull out my EKG device.
Oh man, big fairy energy in here.
Ooh.
None of these objects. Pop brought back a bunch of articles of clothing. It's unclear whether
Yep.
they've been recently laundered, but the trinkets and baubles appear to be unformed artifacts. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a special word for fey enchanted materials.
I'm looking for anything where a scent might have taken hold.
Yeah, those articles of clothing might do you some good.
I will do what I can for you.
Thank you. Tokens. That's what they
Tokens.
are. These things are unfashioned tokens. The major thing about tokens is that anyone who isn't a fae trying to use a token can only use it when the catch is in play.
What's the catch?
Depends on the token.
Ah.
So, like, for instance, a simple token is the ace in the hole. This token appears to be a playing card, usually an ace or a queen. When taped over the interior lock of a closed door and activated, this token makes it difficult to pick any of the locks attached to the door, even if the card is taped over the knob lock. The deadbolt lock above it gains the advantages as well. Attempts to pick the lock of that door are made at a -2 dice modifier, and the presence of this token also removes the 10 again rule from any lock-picking attempts rolls. This token doesn't work on security systems, only physical locks, although rumors of a higher dot token exist that do confer the penalty against attempts to crack security systems. The protection lasts until the user or any other character opens the door. When active, the card appears to be a dirty, dusty tarot card, often the Empress or the Fool. The figure on the card sometimes blinks and mouths silent words. The card's edges drip with a dark, viscous liquid as it works its magic. But when using the ace in the hole, the wielder always cuts himself with the card, a stiff paper cut that causes 1 point of bashing damage. No matter how diligently he protects himself, he'll slice his thumb, skin between fingers, or even his chin. It cannot be avoided. The catch. Now, you would only be able to use this item if you forwent your Tenagans for 24 hours.
Ah.
Use of this
Oof.
supposedly lucky icon actually drains a little of the fortune from the user as the cost. For the rest of the day, until they rest, the character no longer gains Tenagan advantages on any rolls.
That's a harsh price.
And consider, that's a 1 dot price. The price only goes up.
Okay.
These items were not meant for mortal hands, which is one of the reasons why Task Force Valkyrie is disgusted by them. Like, these things are often incredibly powerful, but at the same time, mortals attempting to use them pay a price that is unavoidable and often not worth the effort.
So, hey, check.
Gotcha.
For instance, oh my god. The Squall Knife is a 5 dot trinket, which is, It's a weapon that allows you to steal the screams of your enemies to heal yourself. But
Steal the screams of your enemies.
yes,
Great.
it allows you to consume the screams of your enemies to heal yourself. Unfortunately, it causes the character to become morbidly depressed until they stop wielding it, and they suffer a -3 penalty in all social roles forever.
Oh,
As they are constantly on the lookout of potential predators and filled with a hostility and paranoia. Forever.
that's deep.
That being said, if you re-equip the same squall knife, you don't get the penalty. But if you equipped a different squall knife, the penalty would compound.
Oh my goodness. Good luck finding another one, though.
Right. Like, this is a very powerful token. So, yeah.
Interesting.
That being said, these tokens aren't complete yet, so they don't really do anything. But even so, they're particularly weak ones. They wouldn't do anything fancy. Like, one of them is a counterfeit $5 bill that hasn't been finished. The purpose of it is, like, mystically clear. Like, it's a $5 bill that whenever you spend, it ends up back in your wallet. Like, it's
See,
not...
you say that, and I hear infinite iced coffee.
Yeah, it's infinite iced coffee. It's infinite snacks. Like, it is a simple token that your average everyday changeling would want to create.
The question is, what is the price for that?
If I recall correctly, I know it's a small token. Correct me.
So a trifle.
Yeah,
Inflation must really screw with those.
it does. For the following day, your vice temporarily changes to greed, and you cannot gain willpower through the expression of any other vice. If your vice was only greed, you no longer gain willpower from indulging it.
Oh.
Oh,
Fair enough.
thick, not good.
Oh, and the catch is a loved one will suddenly suffer some misfortune that reduces that person's resources dots by 1. A kitchen catches fire, someone breaks their leg at a job site and cannot work, someone steals a credit card and runs up in astronomical fees. If it's a changeling who's assuring their weird role or glamour expenditure, then the unfortunate drop in resources may happen to one of his own motley. So, yeah, you get a $5 bill and one of your friends fucking loses
Their house
like,
burns down.
yeah, no, like one of your friends loses like $1,500.
You know, suddenly the Fae giving out gifts and all this stuff, makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you use the magic item of doom.
You use it. And let's not get started on goblin contracts.
Goblins also have contracts.
Oh, yes. Goblins make everything on the cheap. Consider the Golden Army. It's an unbeatable force that anyone can take control of. Similarly, goblin contracts all help you now and hurt you later.
They're short-term solutions.
Yes.
Like student loans.
Like student loans. Like two cousins taking a bath together.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I miss Scooter.
I miss Scooter so much. Catch a ride to heaven, my dude. But I feel like that's all right and properly settled. We can chat more later. I understand if you're too busy tonight. You do have some time left, but if you need me, contact Ivan.
Will do.
We'll be in touch.
Marvelous. Good night. Oh, Cookie, could you see them out, please? No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Cookie sees you all out. Got any quick questions before you go?
Learned a lot.
The people who were taken, were there any children among them?
No. They don't take
Okay.
kids. And if they do, they grow up real fast. And I mean that in the worst way.
Well, we have a lot of work to do.
Well, except little Lyle, of course. But you'll meet him later. And he winks.
Step through the door.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
I do have one other question for you.
Shoot.
Is there any chance that the people who took yours weren't the us, but someone attempting to make it look like?
Hadn't considered that.
It's very similar to what the vampires have described.
That was one thing that was a little strange. We know now that it. Well, I mean, we thought it was loyalists kidnapping them when they were out and about on business, that sort of thing. But they ain't that ambitious. Number one, and number two, if that were the case, they wouldn't have ended up in that lab. These loyalists would already be back.
It may be that this is another deception.
Nah, we can feel it in the hedge. Loyalists are trying to make it back to the Feywild.
We'll do something about that.
That being said, I mean, unless of course you can think of someone who would want to do that, or could do that if just to put on airs.
Let's look into it.
And that's what you're there for. Anything else?
I think that'll
Thank you.
do us.
Good night,
We will
y'all.
do what we can.
And he closes the door, and as soon as it clicks shut, you guys are standing next to Easter's Kia.
Oh, that was nice of them.
Such service.
It's not like a teleport. It's more like a, where am I? What year is it?
Their story is suspiciously similar to what I brought the gangrel.
Now that you mention it, I was speaking with the librarian, and she said that it was also suspicious how the people taken, it was made to look like they were taken by the spot.
Yes. I cannot see that these loyalists and Spot act with such. It seems suspicious.
Maybe they're using some kind of magic to have these kidnappings appear convincing.
That would make sense.
I don't know enough of these things. But apparently, I have to learn.
Alrighty then. That'll do for this session. Did everybody have fun?
Absolutely. What a web.
Everybody gets one experience
what
point
tangled
for a.
web we weave.
Everybody gets one experience point for a good session. Everybody gets another
Thank you.
experience for showing up.
Nice.
Everybody gets another experience point for good investigation, so that's 3 total.
Oh, wow.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I am spending that immediately.
Oh, can we spend experience points right away?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It's burning a hole in my pocket.
What did you get?